Hey guys, welcome back to this episode. This is going to be the third in this series that I'm doing, the third video that I'm making. The first one we talked about art productivity, and then the next one we talked about limiting beliefs. And in this one I'm going to be discussing progress, how you can progress in your work as a creator. And basically I'm going to be discussing 3 areas that I find very important for me in finding progress in whatever I do, and I think they may be very, very helpful for you if you need to find your rhythm. So most of us think that we embrace the journey. We always hear things being talked about where people say trust the process or embrace the journey. But if we don't know how to trust the journey, sometimes it can feel like blind trust, where we don't really know what we're moving towards, or whether we are actually progressing in the real way, or whether we are progressing the right way. And that can be very, very hard in following this advice on trusting the process. What does that mean, and what are some of the aspects that go into that idea? And this is what I'm going to be discussing today. I'm going to be discussing 3 areas that I feel can be very helpful in this trusting the process. I'm not quoting this word for word, but I'm just paraphrasing. Bruce Lee mentioned something about practicing 1,000 kicks one time versus practicing 1 kick 1,000 times, and in that he said something like, fear the man who practices 1 kick 1,000 times, not the man who practices 1,000 kicks 1 time, something along those lines. Another person that I saw that once talked about this was in one of Casey Neistat's vlogs. He once said that about embracing work. He said that you should strive to do 10 things. You should not strive to do 10 things to the first degree, but you should strive to do 1 thing to the 10th degree.
If you commit all that you are and all of your energy to 1 thing, you'll... Okay, this diagram, I took this from a book called, I don't know what it's called, but it goes like this. All right, you can do 10 things to like the 1st degree, like this right here, and that's how well you'll do all 10 things. Or you can do 1 thing to the 10th degree right there, and look how much better you do that. So when it comes to focus, to put all of your energy into 1 thing is to do that 1 thing really well, to the best of your abilities, to take it all the way. And to scatter yourself means you're never actually accomplishing anything. You're just sort of chipping away at a bunch of nothingness. And this is true for work, this is true for like dating versus committing yourself to 1 person, friendship, everything. Like really focusing and investing yourself into something you're passionate about will always yield better results than scattering yourself around and spreading yourself thin.
Many people struggle with embracing the journey because there are many things that they feel they need to address, and so you find yourself moving from this to that and doing very many things at the same time, whereas so you end up maybe getting overwhelmed where you don't see much progress in any of the things that you're doing. So that is the very first point. The second one is showing up daily, and showing up daily means it doesn't just mean physically showing up, but it also means, to me, it means mentally showing up, because sometimes we can show up physically. We've all been there, where you show up for something, and Yeah, you're good, you're present, but your mind isn't present. And in most cases, that also is not embracing the journey. Actually, I would argue that your mental presence is more, if it's just as important, if not more important, than you showing up daily. Because you can show up daily, but if you show up daily without having your mind involved in what you're doing, you'll be having haphazard results. You'll not be progressing at all, and you'll spend years or decades and still remain average. But when you show up, you have to show up with your mind present, and that's when it counts. You don't just show up physically, like when people go on and they show up for their work, the offices, they may show up for work, but they are not physically present. They're thinking about different things and paying the bills and like things of that nature. So their mind isn't showing up, but then they're physically present. And at the end of the month, yes, they get their paychecks, but then they end up being unfulfilled, and they don't find any meaning or purpose in their work. So showing up it involves physically showing up, but it also involves mentally showing up for your work. You have to show up, and so what that means is that you decide that once you're doing something, you're going to focus. And there are very many areas of focus I've discussed, and I'll be also discussing more in detail in future episodes on how to enhance your focus. But generally, you have to engage your mind in order to see any progress. And that doesn't necessarily mean to engage your mind only when you are problem solving or when you're actively doing your work. For example, you can be moving, you can have, let me give an example. In my case, I can think about ideas like, how do I draw or how do I paint water? And I don't know how to paint water, but then I can watch a few YouTube videos and then let it relax and sit in my mind, and then I begin playing out different ideas in my mind and seeing which works. All right, I begin thinking about how I would paint the water, and then thinking about how it would look like when I've painted it. This mental exercise is akin to daydreaming, but it's been scientifically proven to also enhance performance. The third and last area that I want to talk about is addressing your interests versus talents. Most people think about talent as the be all end all, most especially when it comes to creativity, things like art. And I don't want to discredit people. I know there are people who have talents, but I also know that there are people who just have the work ethic, and then the people who have both, right? So there is talent, and I can say that talent will lead you somewhere, yes, but most of that journey, like most of the creative process, is going to be a result of your work, how you show up, and it will have, if you have talent, yes, it will help you move some level, it will help you move it a little bit, but your work ethic will carry you most of the way. It will carry you 90% of the way. The interest drives curiosity, like I talked about this in a previous video on limiting beliefs. But the interest drives your curiosity, and then your curiosity in turn makes you seek the information you need to progress. And this is regardless of whether you have talent or not. As I think as long as you have interest, you're going to be fine. And it has nothing to do with whether or not you have talent. So these are the 3 points that I've been discussing, and this has been the 3rd episode. Let me know what you think about this, and I look forward to working with you, and I look forward to discussing something else about productivity in the next video. So that's been all for today, and take care.